Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe. I'm Tamara Zoner, and today I have a very special guest with me, soon to be Dr. Rebecca Kapetansky, my best friend, one of my dearest friends. I have a few best friends, but she's a super special one, as you can probably see just by looking at her. Look at how cute she is. She's the best friend. So Becky and I met 5 years ago. I think it's 5 years ago. 6 years ago?
I feel like it was 6.
Could be 7.
It's
hard to keep track when it feels like you've known someone for a whole lifetime. And I run a group locally, some of you know, called Create a Life You Love. And it's a meetup group. And I had, put out an evening connections invitation. I put out a few of them and several coffee connections too. And finally, she came to one, and it was just, for me, love at first sight. And it was like I had connected with a part of my soul, and we discovered we lived a few minutes away from each other, and it's just been best friendship ever since. So I'm excited for us to have this girls' night edition of Spirit Cafe. So cheers to you, friends. We've got our friends' glasses here today. It's hard to tell on mine, but it's the white. Yeah.
It's even an orange.
Yeah,
my favorite color.
I like it.
Tell.
If you can't tell, her favorite color is orange. These glasses are from Friendsgiving events that I've held over the years that Becky has graciously helped me out with and made them so much more fun. So tonight we're going to get to know Becky, and we're just going to talk. That's what we do. We talk all the time. So hopefully you'll enjoy our conversation too. And to begin with, I'm going to ask Becky, how do you define spirituality?
Oh, let's start with the definition. It's not my strong.
Your definition. Your definition. Because everybody's definition is unique, I think. I mean, there's a dictionary definition, and then there's yours.
Yeah, I guess I would define it maybe like as connection. Spirituality to me is a connection to ourselves, to others, to the earth, to the universe, to all that is. I think it's a connection, and maybe like an energetic connection.
I like it. I like it. And what for you, John and I have talked on this show all about our own experience growing up in religion. And I'm wondering, what was it like for you?
It's our first podcast. Sorry, it's my first one. I think growing up, I was raised, very loosely raised Lutheran Christianity. So went to church for a little bit when I was young, and then that kind of tapered off. We started wanting to sleep in Saturdays and Sundays instead. And so, I was not super indoctrinated. I haven't even drank that much, I swear.
No, we just took our first sip.
But yeah, so, but I did have this concept of God, I think, from that. And so I always kind of believed in a God growing up, but I didn't really believe in organized religion. I questioned that stuff really early on. And my parents were pretty open to me questioning it. And, they weren't particularly super religious either. So I think I always had freedom there to explore that. And,
nice.
Yeah, and my dad, not that long ago, well, I don't know how many years ago, but when I got older and became an adult, my dad talked to me about the possibility of us coming from aliens, and and having aliens, put certain, people onto the planet, and, and he just kind of had this, it wasn't something he necessarily believed, but it was an idea that he was like, that's possible. I think that's possible. So he's, just always been also like not, just open and not like conventional. So yeah, so I think growing up, while I was aware of different religions and stuff, I always had the freedom to explore. I took like a world religions class in high school, and I remember that totally opened my eyes. I tried Buddhism on for a little while. And I remember my concept at that time, I was like 17 or something, was that there was no God, no belief in any God in Buddhism. And so I tried that on for a while, and then I was like, no, I think there's definitely a God. I remember feeling like, for sure there had to be a God, so this doesn't quite fit for me.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like when we met, however many years ago it was, um, you were in a space of like really searching and trying to figure out what the hell you did believe. And really at that point was like, I'm not sure I believe anything. So how has that changed for you over the last 6 or 7 years?
Yeah. I mean, let's see. Well, going back to that period of time, I think, for a long time, I kind of believed in God, that there's a connection, and then that was really kind of it. And I didn't know exactly what I believed as far as afterlife and things like that. And I remember when I met my husband, Mike, um, that was in my early 20s, he introduced me to the concept of it being agnostic, which just meant you don't know. And I was like, oh, that's kind of where I'm at. It's like you can still have beliefs, but you just don't know if they're true. But the period of time you're talking about, I kind of came to this realization that like you just that there was really no meaning really to life. There's no meaning, no purpose, like without religion. Like religion, if I didn't really believe in any kind of organized religion, there was no meaning or purpose. And I kind of felt really lost for a while, and I didn't believe in anything. I kind of thought we might just die, and that's it. And we just decompose and we turn into energy, and like that's it. That's life. Life's, and if that's the case, that there really is no meaning or purpose behind our lives. Like we're just organisms living and dying.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine feeling lost. That belief of nothingness, and that doesn't feel good.
No, I was really kind of depressed during that time. And felt really alone, and not having meaning and purpose really makes it really can make it really difficult, to kind of continue going on. And so then at one point I realized, wow, we just make choices. People just choose what they believe, they just choose if it's a religion or if it's this or if it's that, or if it's even atheism. You just make a choice and you decide that's what you think is the truth, or that's what you think is going on, or even, choosing to be agnostic. Like it's a choice. And so I realized you have to choose your meaning and purpose in life. And once I realized that, it really turned everything around for me, where I was like, oh, what do I want to believe?
Right. I love that. Like, because we get to, John and I just talked about this last week or the week. Yeah, I think last week or the week before, where it was like, you get to just decide what you believe. And I strongly believe that everyone else isn't wrong.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Like I was raised like everyone else is going to hell because they don't believe what we believe. But I think that's total nonsense. And so you do get to choose what you believe. And in my opinion, and whatever you believe happens for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you can choose what fits with your values and your, what aligns with your life. Like what's going to align with, what's going to align with, I'm trying to think of another word besides values, but I guess like your characteristics and just, the ways
values is a good word though. Cause like, that's what really matters to you.
Right.
Right. So what really matters to you is what you're going to want to align with.
Yeah.
And use that to assign meaning and purpose and then feel good in your life. And it's do you feel differently now? So before, when you were kind of like, there's nothing, we just die and then, like turn back into the earth, you felt lost. And now that you've kind of subscribed to a particular meaning of your own creation, now how do you feel? Like, do you feel purposeful?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel more purposeful and meaningful in the sense of like, I'm choosing what is meaningful to me, and I'm making purpose out of my life with what I've decided is important. And that's huge for me, which, I've kind of decided at this point is connection for me. Connection is, connecting to people and lifting people up energetically and spiritually and all that stuff. So I will say more recently, and within the last year, I read the book Hacking the Afterlife. And that has completely changed my view of spirituality. So that book has led me to like, it talks a lot about like having these soul groups that, like basically the idea that our soul is kind of a dimensional species. And that this dimensional species chooses to come down into different bodies all over the universe to have experiences. And that we have multiple lives and all these different kind of concepts that, when I started looking at how that aligns with all these other beliefs, religious beliefs, that kind of lined up with everything. I still would say I'm agnostic about it. Like, I'm not like, oh yeah, that's it. That's the answer. But I really like everything I read and the concepts behind it. I think partly because I love the idea that like there is something more,
Right.
and that I will get to see like you and Mike and like all these people again, but it will be in the spiritual sense. And that you have these groups. The idea is like you kind of have these groups, and you kind of decide ahead of time, like, what are you going to do? What's this life going to be like? And what role am I going to play? And what role will I play? And like, everybody kind of decides. But of course, there's the concept of free will, or the concept of like, once you get down here, things can go awry.
Right.
So not everything lines up all the time. But then when you die, you go back to that group and you kind of talk about like what you learned and how did it go and like what went wrong, what went right, and like, kind of have a fun experience. But that kind of gives you this like concept of like these certain souls that travel together and they kind of make these plans together. So they know each other better than other souls, but that we're all connected when we die. Like everyone's connected. So, and there's also a concept within that book of like, I think like 1/3 of your soul stays behind. So that like you're still always connected to that other dimension.
Oh,
yeah. So that's your higher self.
Okay.
AKA
I
self.
love that.
So if you
that
connect
makes sense.
to that 1/3, if you can get open and you open, like the idea of your chakras and things like that, if you open up that ability to connect to that 1/3, then that's when you have a much more clear idea of what your path was that you set out. Because so like
I gotta listen to this book.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay. So that, and then that aligns with a lot of the spirituality that we've talked about, right? Like that if you connect to this higher self or this other part, that's where your internal wisdom comes from, and this ability to kind of like feel like you're on the right path, like feel like you're heading and you're being guided by your higher self. And that really aligns with that you have this 1/3 of yourself still there that can help you when you're like feeling lost. That's kind of like, nope, we had a plan. Here's our plan.
Like, you're on the path, just kind of get back, steering in the right direction. I love that. And it really aligns with how I've always felt, because throughout my life, I've had these moments of seeing a person and just knowing, right? I've been with my first love. I remember seeing him for a couple of years before we ever even had a conversation, and just having this feeling, and I didn't know what it was then, but it happened enough times with really good friends, best friends, and partners, right? So another boyfriend in college, I saw him on campus and I was like, there's just something. I mean, of course he was really cute, but there was something energetically about him. And then you and some other
your kids.
And
I always think about how you were
oh my gosh,
I'm gonna have 3 kids. And
I've always known, right?
I feel like that it was planned out and you're just connected to that extra part of yourself that said like, here's your plan.
Right. I knew. And I even remember thinking right before I got pregnant with my oldest, I was like, where are you guys? Like, what's taking so long? Because I could feel the souls of my children just hovering around me. And then when my son, who's the youngest, was like 3 years old, I was tucking him in one night and he was like, Mommy, what took you so long?
Yeah, see?
We were waiting for you, he said. And I was like, oh, I was right. Oh, that was, that's pretty exciting. And it feels like home, right? Like you feel like home to me.
Yeah.
So
no, it kind of aligns with that too, that feeling. And and when I think about I watch a lot of shows and like young children will remember these past lives, and they've shown like crazy things where the kids name the names and they can pick out pictures, and all of it can be, it's so accurate. Like they know exactly who they used to be, and they tend to forget as they get older. Right. The shows like, but when we're young, we're so like such blank slates. We can be so open, right? Like to the universe. And so I think, and it kind of aligns with that, like that we've, you can come back at any time and place. And like you said, with your children's souls kind of hovering around, it's like, you had that planned out and the souls were waiting. And you're like, just waiting.
Wait for me to get my stuff together. Right.
Yeah. Like, and it also does like, the explanations of like when you say like, even your ex like drives you crazy, but you're like, he's here to teach me lessons. It even aligns with that, because it's like he could even be part of your soul group, and this was decided.
100%.
Like 100%. Where he was like, I'm gonna be a total dick,
right? And I'm not gonna budge.
I'm gonna teach you these lessons of patience and like, and in the soul world, this other dimension. You're like, that's gonna be amazing,
right? And I try so hard to return to that. I mean, I don't really have to try hard anymore because now it's really my practice. But it's like I really believe that, and now especially after the conversation with Neil Donald Walsh, where I talked to him, I was like, I read that passage in your book about the little soul in the sun, and the one soul says, well, I'll come down and do something so terrible to you that you have to forgive me, but don't forget, right? Or we're both stuck here.
Right.
And Neil Donald Walsh said to me, forgiveness is like the number one barrier to spiritual evolution. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said. He said, though, that it's acceptance that moves us forward or upward. And I was like, oh crap. So it's like, you don't chastise a toddler for falling down or doing something wrong because they just don't know yet. Right. And so it's like, maybe these souls are baby souls. Right. And they just don't know yet. Absolutely. Right. So you don't even have to go through the effort of forgiveness if you just accept that this is all they know. And we've had so many conversations about my ex-husband because I didn't mention what Becky is about to be a doctorate in. It is psychology. And so it's really good to have your best friend who is also a therapist. And not that she provides therapy for me at all, just good conversations. That is not allowed. And that I would not want that.
Friendly advice.
Then we wouldn't be friends.
From a friend that has a psychology degree.
I, however, can coach all I want to, but that also doesn't happen much without permission. But, being able to look at it and accept that really that is who he is. And that's the limitation of his mental construct, right? He's very smart. He's a very smart person, but it's like, he's just stuck in a place. And it helps me to understand that and accept that, because then I'm not fighting against it.
Right.
Right. And so I think for anybody struggling with any personality in their lives, they may never change. The situation may never change. Right. I had people tell me all these years ago, oh, in a few years, things will be more amicable and, you'll be able to get along and talk. No, my ex hasn't budged.
He has not
budged, not a bit.
I thought you would too.
Right. So I've come to accept that this is just what I have to deal with. And it's myself that I get to, turn back on and say, how am I going to respond? Right. How am I going to respond? And I'm only human. So sometimes it's not as well as I'd want to. And sometimes I remember who I want to be and how I want to show up. And so, yeah. What do you think? How do you feel like your education and your spirituality meld or merge together, if they do?
Well, I think, I guess I consider them very aligned. I don't think there's anything I learned in psychology that would like contradict anything I currently believe, for the most part, at least anything that I've learned that I've felt is true. Or true to the point. I don't think, there is like an actual truth out there. I think everything's somewhat relative, but we're always learning, science wise about the brain and stuff. There's things we used to know in psychology that we now know is not true, but we knew it before. We absolutely knew it. And then it was like, oh, turns out that's wrong. So, yeah. So I don't know. I think psychology, I guess my education certainly plays a part in terms of just learning to question everything, just questioning and thinking things out. But I mean, I've been like that since I was 14. So I'm not sure how much it plays a role. I think, so I am psychologically minded for sure. It's how I see the world. But I think psychology aligns with spirituality and they intersect in a bunch of ways. So, there is like psychology of religion and, things like that. So, and psychology of spirituality, like those things all kind of, it's such an important part of us as human beings that, we're taught in psychology to address it, even in terms of therapy. Like it's a really important thing to address when you're working with somebody in therapy, because, their spirituality really informs how they live their life and their choices and their values and things like that. It can. And so it's an important aspect of, it's one of the many important aspects that you want to address during therapy. So, even in coaching, like I ask people
if they're religious, if they're spiritual, and then like, how do you refer to that higher power? John and I call it the yada yada at this point, but how do you refer to that? And like, help me know what your spiritual or religious language is, so that then I can use that with you, right? Because I want to call God what they call God. If they call it God, or the universe, or source, or Gaia, or whatever, I want to speak their language so that they hear me.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And then when I'm with a group of people, like we do the coffee connections you're back. You get to come again.
I do.
I've missed her at the coffee connections. And so has everybody who knows you. But we, then I throw out all the terms like John and I did, at least in the first few months of the podcast, until we settled on yada, yada. But it matters that people feel like you hear them.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, something we have learned in psychology and science, I think in general, is that what we think, what we believe, what our ideas are about the world, influences everything around us. And it influences us, our own behavior. It influences the chemicals in our brain and it influences our emotions. And then it also like literally influences, like if you get into quantum physics and things like that, right? It influences outcomes of like studies. So one of the things in psychology that's big right now, and it's kind of big all over, is, knowing your own biases, like knowing your own, like implicit bias, which is biases that we can't even help, they're just there because we need them, because we have to like make judgments all the time. We have to do it quickly. And so our brain does that naturally. But so our spirituality beliefs, like they affect our psychology, right? They affect our brain. They affect all of it. Like, what we believe and think affects all those things. So I think that's really important to recognize and to know that, spirituality directly impacts your psychological health,
Heck yeah, it does. And so many people like utilize their faith and utilize their faith, right, as a way to cope.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a coping skill. Prayer is a coping skill, like,
right?
Yeah,
it's all, and like a simple belief. Like I always invite people to try on the belief that everything happens for you, not to you. And for me, that helps so much with the way that I move through situations or challenges that I wouldn't necessarily want. But if I just say, okay, it's happening for me, and then I just experience what I experience. I used to try to bypass the feelings, and I've learned that you can't get through it if you don't go through it. So then
what's your saying?
If you feel it, you heal it. If you ignore it, you store it. So
heard it here first.
Oh, speaking of heard it here first, would you like to share your 5 rules for life with us?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can do that.
These are so good. I want you to listen.
I
I can never remember one of them. I always miss one of them.
It's 5 of them.
Maybe together we'll get it.
There's a new one, and that's why. But I remember.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have 5. Did you have more to say?
No.
Okay.
I want to hear your 5 rules. You guys, get a pen and paper, write these down, or pause.
5 rules to life, and I'm probably gonna. We talked about like making it into a book chapter or making like a book out of it. Like I would love to do that. But so rule number 1 is I'm awesome. That's just rule number 1. I'm awesome, but that applies to anybody. So rule number 1 for you is
I'm awesome.
So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is take what you want and leave what you don't. I also call this manipulation of the situation. So it's really just about like, in any given situation, there are good things happening, good things you can take from it, and bad things you can take from it. And so it's just about focusing on those good things, the things that are going to help you or serve you, and kind of like leaving the rest of the stuff and not taking that with you. I call it manipulation of the situation because there's times where you might be in a situation where you're just like bored or you're uncomfortable or like, things aren't what you want. And so if you can kind of take that situation, manipulate it in a way that works for you, however you have to do that, even if it's with your imagination and like, playing around. I think playing is a good way to do this, but then you can kind of take what you want out of the situation and just leave the rest, sleep it.
Yeah.
So rule number 3 is to try not to take anything personally. And I say try. I used to just say don't take anything personally until I kind of, probably through my psychological journey and stuff, but I kind of realized like some things are personal.
Yeah.
Like some things in life are personal, and that's okay to acknowledge. But in general, try not to take anything personally. because the truth is we all have filters. So, I think if somebody says something to you, somebody else might not take any offense at all or care at all, and you might care a ton or be really offended. And so keeping that in mind, it reminds you that like it's not necessarily personal. It's how you're taking it. Like it's your choice on that. So do your best not to. Rule number 4, which is one of the newest rules, is I'm like trying to think. So give a fuck about people, but don't give a fuck about what people think, but give a fuck about people. That's it.
Yeah.
So a nice way to say it is to don't care what people think, but care about people.
Yeah.
And so
that's how I present it to the high schoolers.
Yeah. the nicer way, the PC way. But yeah, so basically, the idea behind that is just that you don't have to like what you're saying is always what other people think of me is none of my business. And I love that saying.
Yeah.
Because then you're not like worried. Like people talk shit about people all the time. We all do it. Everybody does it. Yeah. And if you can not really worry about that, then you're just, you're not going to be caught up in that. You're just going to have a good time, be yourself, be the best person you can be, and move on.
Exactly. So, like my opinion of myself is the one that counts. Right?
Yeah. Like, am I aligned with my values?
Exactly. My integrity, am I like being a good human in the way that I define being a good human?
Yeah. Exactly. And then the last one, which is rule number 5, is to be humble about rule number 1, because everybody's awesome.
Everybody's awesome.
So that's the important thing, is to realize like I'm awesome and it's great, so that you have that confidence, but you also want to be humble about that. Like we all make mistakes, we're all awesome, and we all, can struggle at times. So just recognizing that.
I love it. I love those 5 rules. And, I invite you guys listening or watching to really sit with those, especially remembering that you're awesome, because you are. And that's one thing that matters to me. I realized this week I've been alone a lot this week. I'm not usually alone ever. I have 4 other people who live in this house, and I'm hardly ever alone now that my partner and I live together, aside from cats and dogs. And so I've had just way more time with myself than I need or I'm used to. And I was thinking a lot yesterday, and we kind of talked about this at Evening Connections last night, thinking, okay, is this a problem? Like, is it a problem that I need other people, right? To feel motivated, to feel on purpose. And then I was asking myself too, do I feel less happy alone? No, I don't actually feel less happy. I feel content. I feel happy by myself, but I don't feel as on purpose and meaningful, because my purpose is to reflect back your light, right? My purpose is to reflect the light that people don't see within themselves. And so I don't know why I brought that up, but
I think I was going to say the words used, I don't feel fulfilled. I think that's what you said yesterday. Yes. I don't feel fulfilled. I'm happy, but I don't feel fulfilled without people around me.
And I don't know how long that happiness would maintain without the fulfillment that I get from being with others.
The connection.
And connect. Yeah, it comes back to that connection that you were talking about.
Yeah. I think it's very natural. That's why, I think it's great that you reflected back and thought, like, is this a problem? So I'm like, no.
Check it in with myself.
It's not a problem. I mean, I guess it'd be a problem if you were like suicidal or like really depressed every time somebody laughed.
I just watch too much TV, which I don't normally do. I was like, what is going on? Like, I have so many hours that usually are filled with people.
Yeah, I think we're designed to connect in general. So I think it can be difficult to be alone, especially like when you're not used to it.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt, I don't know, I just felt like off, like I did a lot of things. I didn't feel sad or even really lonely, because I have these cats that are like, yay, we get you. We get to have you now.
Yes. I bet they're super glad we have a dog here.
Oh, they love it. And they slept on my bed, and, they were just like, yay, we get to see you. But it was like,
you can definitely shine their light back.
Yeah.
Sure, right? Bean needs it.
Oh, Bean was so cute today. That is my one ginger kitty. I have 3 black cats and a ginger. So cute. Anyway, it was just like, I love the people. I love the people, and I love to be there for the people, and I love to be my best for the people. And I, my kids and my friends and my boyfriend and our group. And my clients. And it's just like, when I don't have any of that, I did feel a little lost. And so let's see, I've been alone since Sunday night. It's Thursday today as we're recording this. And today, finally, I was like, I can just do nothing. I can just sit back. I can watch a
Don't
show.
Be too far from the mic though.
Right? I gotta not get too far. I can watch a show and not do anything constructive while I do that. I'm a recovering doer. And so oftentimes I'll think like to watch TV, especially, which has no real educational or growth value most of the times.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to do something else. So I organized a closet. I organized the garage. I cleaned my kids' room all, while watching. When I showed you one of my kids' rooms, I painted that room watching like 3 seasons of New Girl, which I
don't know how you could do that.
never otherwise watch because it's not spiritual. It's
so
really funny.
And her outfits are so cute. She inspires. It's so educational.
Also, I love her
singing on fashion. So.
Oh, for sure. Everybody educates me on fashion because it's just not my thing. It's usually a black tank top and some bottoms you can't see. All right. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know how long we've talked, but I think long enough. So
we're gonna spirituality check.
I want to thank you, soon to be Dr. Rebecca Kapetansky, for being here. And hopefully, as the night goes on, we'll have even more good talking.
For sure.
Because as the wine goes in, wisdom comes out. That's our little block for tonight's girls' night.
In this case, sour beer.
Sour beer. That works too. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Spirit Cafe. And if you liked it, let us know. If you had questions, let us know. We love to hear your comments. And thanks, Becky. It's good to have you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Please leave all comments on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page or beneath our videos on YouTube.